Hello, Internet. This is Q Dragon. With me, as always, is my co host, Jack. And today we have a very special guest, Alex Dainis.
Hello.
Alex creates the science series called Bite Size. And so tell us a bit about your channel, Alex, for those who don't know.
Yeah, so I make short weekly videos on science topics. They're mostly biology based, but it could be anything. And so I basically just talk about whatever it is that has struck me as cool and exciting and interesting about science that week.
That's awesome. So, what got you started making videos?
When I was in college, I was a bio TA and I really enjoyed it and I loved teaching science. But when I graduated, I didn't really have opportunities to do that so much anymore. And so YouTube just seemed like a cool way for me to be able to talk to lots of people and to talk about science because I find that after a while, it doesn't matter how nerdy your friends are, they still sort of look at you blankly after a half hour of blabbering about science. So the internet, however, cannot stare at you blankly. And so they will always just let you blabber at them. So YouTube it was.
What attracted you to teaching specifically?
It's a good question. I think I sort of stumbled into teaching almost accidentally. I had really enjoyed taking the biolab course that I ended up TAing in college, and it wasn't so much that I had any sort of desire to teach initially as it was that I loved the subject material and didn't want to leave the course once I was done being a student with it, so I decided to apply to TA. And then I found once I was there that I really loved the moment of watching someone get a concept. And I think it was more important to me when somebody got something different about science. And I guess not just somebody was learning, oh, this is what a gene is, this is what DNA is, but when I saw someone look past, well, I'm giving my Daphnia caffeine and so it's spinning around. And when I saw someone get sort of the scientific method through that, when I saw people experimenting and getting it and saying, yeah, science is something cool that I can use to either make Daphnia spin around in their own little microscope slides or to sort of look at the world around me. Watching people get that moment of excitement was really cool to me. And so I just wanted to keep doing that, and teaching seemed to be a way to do it.
Now, you said that you had graduated. What exactly did you graduate with, if you don't mind me asking?
I graduated in 2011 with a degree in biology and a degree in film as well. They're just bachelor's degrees. I'm going back to school next year for my PhD.
Wow. Do you have any idea of what you want to focus in with your PhD?
Yes, I have actually been accepted to a genetics program, so I will be doing lots and lots of genetics research. I think possibly epigenetics.
That's really, really cool. Do you think you're going to, document your experience with that, or are you going to stick to bite size only?
So that's a really good question that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because looking at the amount of time that grad school is going to require and looking at the amount of time that making videos requires is a slightly daunting future prospect. But I certainly have been thinking a lot about trying to find a way to branch bite-sized into more of a life-sized kind of deal where I can talk about my research and what I'm doing. Of course, I would have to have a very willing lab to do that as well that would let me sort of talk about it on the internet. I don't know yet, but I am optimistic that that might happen.
I think that would be really interesting. As far as I know, no one's really documented that kind of journey of grad school and being in a lab.
Yeah.
Probably because they're so busy.
Yes. Yeah. I imagine that's part of it. And I imagine, too, that it would be possibly hard to talk about, too, because I know even when I was doing all my undergraduate research, you don't want to talk about what you're doing until something is published. And so I worry that that might be sort of hard to be like, so I did this cool experiment today and I found an answer that I can't tell you about.
Or what you could end up doing is just every single time you try to talk about what you do with people, and every single time you realize that there's something that's going to take a half hour to explain, write that thing down and then make the videos. That way you can just walk around parties with an iPad and show them the videos of what you're talking about so they can keep up with you in conversation.
That, I think, is a fantastic idea. I will just podcast my life and be like, you know what? I'm not going to talk to you right now. Just watch this video. I'll just stand here.
Just set a webcam in the lab and just live stream the whole thing.
Here's me pipetting for 2 hours. Fascinating.
There's a 3-hour blooper of me falling asleep at my desk.
Never happen.
How long has that piece of pizza been stuck to my ass? I'm just now seeing this on the camera.
I'm sure that in exploring your current research, you could touch on a lot of more general subjects.
Oh, yeah, I read this cool paper, or even not sort of science-based, but just, man, quals are terrifying and hard, that sort of thing that I'm sure lots of grad students could relate to, and lots of people looking at grad school would be interested in that nobody's really doing. Sort of the experience of being a grad student.
I'll be going into biotech/genetics in a few years, so that could be very helpful for me.
There you go.
I have a friend with a master's degree, and she stopped at master's because she just up and decided that she did not want any more school.
That's honestly why I didn't go straight from college into grad school, is because I hit the end of college and I was like, man, I can't do more school right now. And so I can totally see that. Being out of it, I miss school and I miss research so much. So we'll see what happens.
Considering your major compared to her major, your major you'd actually be actively doing things along with your education, whereas hers was classwork.
Oh, yeah, that after a while was just too much.
Yeah, so honestly, like, your experience will probably be very, very different than a lot of other people's. Like, I admire people who are able to get PhDs in things like language.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a friend who's in history and was looking at history PhD programs. That is remarkable to me, sort of the amount of classwork and just sitting alone in a library reading things that is required to get a PhD in those languages and histories and things. It's crazy.
I think if I had to do a PhD history program, I would hang myself. I'd be like, no, too much reading.
Too much. I know, I'm more of a hands-on person. Like, I don't want to read the books about it. I want to do it.
When do you start this PhD program?
September.
Oh, September. So we have a few more months of bite-sized, or at least regular bite-sized left?
Yeah, there's definitely, I'm going to keep going up until I hit grad school, and I want to take some time this summer to try and make a bank of them almost, so that even once I'm in grad school, I've got a little bit of padding where I can be like, all right, here's 2 months of videos that I've already made, so that while I'm in the process of moving across the country and starting grad school, I don't need to film YouTube videos right now.
Oh.
So I do not foresee an end to bite-sized in the near future. Have no fear.
That's good.
Perhaps in the interim, you'll be able to find an army of invisible butlers to help you make videos, like Quinn and I use.
We just have butlers upon butlers.
Oh, goodness, man. I need to get in on that. You need to send me some of your invisible butlers.
But actually, in actuality, we do have volunteers who help us research Brainstorm, and they are extremely awesome.
Yeah, I think that's honestly becoming the biggest time commitment to making videos is the research portion of it. I feel like I'm writing a research paper each week because it's finding a topic and then finding the research papers and then reading all the research papers and then trying to synthesize it. The research and the writing is a huge component of it that I guess I didn't expect to be as large as it is.
At the very beginning of Brainstorm, I wrote, hosted, and edited, and then Jack was researching, and I'm like, wait a minute, Jack is way better at narrating than I am. So now she just hosts, and then we have like 2 or 3 people that do nothing but research.
That's nice.
When it was just me researching, it was 20 hours a week. It was like a part-time job, and this was during a time when I was working full-time, so I was putting in 60-hour weeks total.
Yeah, no.
It was amazing just how much goes into what vloggers do.
I totally feel you on that. I mean, 20 hours a week seems completely logical and normal to me right now. And I also have a full-time job and I have a volunteer position. And so I could use some invisible butlers.
You know what? I'm actually looking to expand the Brainstorm research team. I could put some feelers out if you're interested in some bite-sized volunteers.
I would absolutely not say no to that.
That's awesome. Since you're going into genetics, it occurred to me to ask, have you ever heard of biohacking?
Biohacking. Are you referring to people doing sort of genetics in their garage sort of biohacking?
Yes.
I have heard of biohacking, and trust me, if I had the sort of money to put on that kind of setup, I would be a biohacker.
Are you in Boston?
I am in Boston, yes.
Because Boston has one of the biggest public labs for biohacking.
Really?
As far as I know, it's called Boss Lab.
I had no idea.
So, might be something to look into. Might be a cool tour for a bite-sized video.
Absolutely, Bob. Okay, well, that has just been written down and will be researched as soon as I get off with you guys.
Glad I could help.
That's what we're here for. Inseminate, corrupt, educate.
That is a really great motto.
Yeah,
You need that on a plaque somewhere.
I'll make a t-shirt.
Yeah, I'll put it on my front door, for the solicitors to see.
Nice.
So obviously, sort of biology is more your area of expertise.
I mean, I love all kinds of science. Physics and I have our fighting days, but biology is the one that I can see examples in my life of how I can use it to sort of explore the world around me, and that's what I think is the coolest bit of science ever. So biology is the one that feels the most applicable to my life and to my experiences.
I definitely feel the same way towards physics. But, I mean, you have a few videos dealing with other subjects. So, how do you, when you do have to talk about those subjects, how do you sort of get around that, not discomfort, but unfamiliarity, I guess?
I thankfully had to take courses in all of them, in physics and chemistry and math and stuff when I was in college. So I at least have a passing familiarity, and I try and pull on the parts that I find to be interesting. I figure if something catches my interest in it, then I'll put in the time to research it and to look into it and to understand the chemistry or whatever it is behind it. I guess I do occasionally shy away from things that are a little out of my comfort zone, not because I would be afraid to research them, but I don't want to ever talk about something and educate someone incorrectly. So I always want to make sure that whatever I am teaching is something that I am sure of and that I am passing on correct information.
I feel the same way. Sometimes there'll be a physics or a really technical article that it's in the news and I want to write about it for Brainstorm. And I'm like, this is so cool, but I have no idea what this says.
Yeah, exactly. Even if I read an article about something and I'm like, oh, that sounds neat, and I try and tell it to someone at work or something, that's one thing. But if I'm going to put it, I guess, on the internet under the veil of education, I don't want to do that unless I am positive that what I am saying is correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember one time I tried to write a little bit for Brainstorm. Q gave me an article saying, here, start with this one. It's just an article about electronics. And I was just like, all right, reading it. I froze up. I darn near had a panic attack because I realized that I was going to screw up the whole shebang because I wasn't able to understand it well enough to paraphrase. And I was just like, okay, witchcraft confirmed, electronics, dirty secrets revealed. Okay, puppeteer gnomes live in my television, and the internet is a series of tubes as far as I'm concerned. I understand how computers work, but as far as I'm concerned, it is alchemy.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that the other day because I was looking at, I pulled my SD card out of my camera to try and transfer stuff onto my computer, and I was like, you know what, I get how tapes work, and I get how CDs work. But it is complete magic to me how this video is stored on this little card. That's so incredible to me. And I think that's so cool, but it's not something that I would ever talk about because I'm like, it's magic to me. That's all craziness.
It really is, and in a fundamental way. I grew up kind of alternative in the fact that my mother wasn't a beige-style Judeo-Christian person. She was a very tie-dyed, looked like Susie and the Banshees, with her tarot cards and her astrology and all that shebang. I was basically raised pagan. So I ended up familiar with ideas, like these modern ideas of the occult. While all of that's fake, and while computers are real, I find that I use similar reasoning to understand how computer works that I used to do to understand that. It's like, if there's something that I don't understand how it works, my mind puts kind of this weird obelisk of a placeholder right where that is. There's these blocks of misunderstanding and almost occult obscurity, kind of mystery, that are tied together with threads of basic understanding, so I'm able to build a computer, but I can only tell you part of how it works. I can tell you how the different parts that I have no clue about relate to each other. It's really, really weird how that works, but it's kind of interesting. It's wonderful how the human mind is able to tie everything together and still be able to interact with the world in a meaningful and even enlightened way while still grappling with its own inevitable ignorance about so many things.
Oh, yeah.
And I
That's how I feel when I read articles related to quantum computing. I'm like, what? And it's like, okay, what?
So I am a huge fan. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. There's a Best American Science Writing puts out a book every year of, the best articles that they think. And I almost always have to skip the like computing. And there was one, just because you said that, there was one this year about quantum computing and stuff. And I just can't read them. I'm like, this is all magic and mystery. And I have no idea what the words you're even putting in this sentence are. It is incredible.
Okay, but speaking of not understanding things, do you know what I miss in science?
What?
Science articles with awesome Latin names. We need to bring that back.
Naming like fun animals?
No, there used to be like really famous research papers with awesome Latin names.
Yes.
No, a paper. Like some of Einstein's papers have like really awesome titles.
Ooh.
The whole name was in Latin, not just the species, not just
Yeah.
the title's in Latin, because Latin's a dead language, so if it's dead, it can't mutate. So that's why we use Latin terms for taxonomy, for like the scientific names of things, is because language is always changing. A living language, if it's spoken, it changes.
Right.
Official Latin is set in stone and doesn't change because it's not actually spoken, except in the Vatican. The use is so isolated that anything that comes from that can be kept separate from the archaic Latin. So basically, it used to be just Latin was used for everything. Latin was what anything scholarly was written in. For that reason, it became the scholarly language. And it used to be that entire scientific papers were written in Latin, and then it was just the titles. Now it's just the taxonomy. It's a trend that has changed, and really, if you think about it, because of the fact that English has now been standardized, with the dictionary and specific grammar rules being set, which is a recent thing, by the way. The use of Latin in academia predates any attempts at standardizing a living language, or at least any that I know of. Any attempt to standardize English, that's the one I know for sure. Now that we have modern communication and people are talking so much, and we have the television, so we know how they talk in California, we know how they talk in New York, from everywhere, and it used to be back in the day, you only knew that if you went there. And because, just instant communication, everybody's watching the same TV shows, listening to the same music, that has actually had a slowing effect. That has actually, affected how language develops. Slang travels way faster in usage, and the overall small idiosyncratic developments slow down. So it's like you have vocabulary proliferation with structural stability. So, given that, it's less and less necessary for the use of something like Latin, so obviously that's fallen out of favor, because it no longer makes sense to not use the first language.
But it sounds so cool.
I know, it sounds like a magic spell.
I'm saying, as I was saying, the quantum articles already sound like magic. Why not just put them in Latin in the first place?
Oh goodness. You could probably change them to Latin and I wouldn't know the difference, honestly.
Yeah. that'd be an interesting experiment. Giving people straight quantum physics articles and then giving them Latin translations and seeing their comprehension compared.
I think they would be just as confused.
Yeah, probably. So, a recent video you did was about biomimicry, and you asked your viewers to leave device suggestions. Are there any that sort of jump out that you remember?
Yeah, there were some great ones in there. I was originally planning on just tossing a couple of them at the end of a second video, but I want to make a full video on the suggestions that people left, just because I didn't expect people to be so excited about it and to leave such cool things. I'm trying to think of one that jumps out at me. I know some people were talking about trying to get bacteria that can work as sort of new electrical sort of sources and trying to turn over biomass in the oceans. I'm flipping through some of the things right now just to see if there are any that are popping out.
I had ideas like that, but I thought that wouldn't really be biomimicry. That's more biointegration.
It is a bit more biointegration. One of them that I'm finding here is somebody suggested to look at the structure and pathways of neurons to be able to look at electrical conduction within the home or within cities. And so stuff like that is sort of very abstract, but I think that's cool because you can look at that like, all right, so are we looking at neurons as patterns of how you could actually connect wires and, what are the closest connections between different things? Or are we looking at neurons as how they transmit electricity, and could we sort of turn that into our own electrical conduction? So there were all sorts of crazy, crazy different ideas. I want to kind of go through and actually comb through them and sort them and talk about all of them a little bit better in their own video at some point, but there were some great ones.
When you like asked for people to do that, I sat and thought, I'm like, maybe this, and I'm like, then add cells. I was like, wait a minute, I'm missing the purpose of mimicking biology.
Well, I don't think they have to be completely mutually exclusive.
I guess, yeah, I know, but...
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, though.
Adding cells is like my solution to everything.
Just let biology take over. It'll figure out what to do.
Yay! What about you? Did you have any biomimicry ideas?
I mean, the one that I put at the end of the video was talking about whether or not we could use natural bioluminescence to make any sort of non-electrical light sources.
Yeah.
The other one that I've been thinking of that I didn't end up putting in there because I think people are actually working on it is looking at chromatophores and things like cuttlefish and trying to see how we could use that either for more traditional camouflage in the military, which I think people are already doing. But then, I mean, once the military makes the technology, it trickles its way down into sort of consumer products. So my far end cool idea on that is if you could take some sort of chromatophore inspired, not cloaking really, but sort of color changing into paint colors or into how to camouflage things on buildings, right? So you can change the way a building looks.
I guess you can even have just displays that run off that.
That too, sort of having, instead of an LCD TV, you could have a chromatophore TV. Would be a little different, but...
That'd be pretty crazy.
That would be awesome, though, if you could get it to work.
I remember years ago, I had an idea of, like, what if you just had a little aquarium filled with a sort of self-sustaining little ecosystem, and then just make everything bioluminescent, and then it would just be like self-sustaining lamp.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, I wonder how you would do it. You'd have to have something to feed your little bioluminescent fireflies, and then you'd somehow have to turn over the little firefly poop into whatever would help grow whatever you're feeding to the bioluminescent fireflies.
I would think some sort of aquatic environment, like a little bit of algae, a little bit of bacteria, some like a little krill or something.
Mm-hmm.
And have like a whole food chain.
A little tarragon, a little bouillon, a little bit of Cajun seasoning. Yum.
Sounds tasty.
I always wondered how bright could it be.
I don't know. Somebody, though, actually, I put that at the end of the video, and somebody linked me to a project at MIT that actually looked into it a couple years ago. It looked to be more of sort of a thought experiment than an actual sort of research project, but there are people out there who are thinking of it, and part of me was excited that people are looking at my idea, and then part of me was not excited that I was apparently not original, but...
Yeah, that always sucks.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, this is the best idea ever. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just look at it like, yay, the universe granted my wish!
Yes! Somebody has already done the research for me.
But it always sucks when it's like halfway research.
Yeah.
They're like, no! It's so close yet so far away.
Yeah, we're not actually gonna make anything with it. We just wanted to show it in principle so we could get grant money and get all the news.
No. And now I can't research it. Damn.
Not fair. Either do it all the way or don't do it at all.
Bioluminescence always seems so cool. But, I've never seen white bioluminescence. Have you?
White bioluminescence?
Because it's always like a green tint or something.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
I don't know. I mean, I wonder, what color would you classify a firefly as? That's kind of yellowy.
Yeah, I would say yellowy-orange. But I wonder, could you combine, like, a blue, green, and red fluorescent protein, and it would create a white light?
I mean, I don't see why not. I'm trying to think. I mean, oftentimes you'll get people expressing groups of cells with, GFP and RFP and all that all at the same time. And I don't actually know what a cell would look like if you expressed all of them in it at the same time. And I wonder if it might be white or a very bright yellow. It's a good question.
Yeah, something worth looking into, because I think that would be the most sort of annoying part of a bioluminescent lamp, is that it would be like a green.
You call that annoying. I call that awesome.
Well, I mean, if you want to feel like you're in a Borg cube, I guess you could go with that. But...
Borg cubes didn't have green light.
Yes, they did.
How dare you?
Yeah, they did. the whole Borg theme is green.
I don't remember the green.
Green and black and gray.
Yeah, it's totally green.
For some reason, I remember
totally
it being amber.
green.
I don't.
Amber? What the hell are you talking about?
I just recently watched a bunch of Star Trek: The Next Generation too. Well, there's actually this thing where if you look at a room, right, and then you look away from it for 5 minutes, guaranteed something in the room will be a different color than what you remember when you look back at it. The other day, I was looking for a book that I couldn't find. It turns out it's because I was looking for a red cover. The book had a green cover. So you guys are probably right, and I'm probably just remembering it all kinds of weird.
Yeah, I think the Borg would be a lot less creepy if they were like amber. That'd be like
I don't know. It was kind of a dark amber color. I mean, I know that I associate that with kind of edgy feeling, probably because all the street lights around here are kind of that color. So, amber street light is when amber light is when it's just like, oh, you're in the scary parking lot alone. It could just be because I associate that color of light with being outside at night. That's why.
Do you know what I always wanted to do with bioluminescence? Is, how there's like fungus and they form really large, thin networks under the soil?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make pathways of that in a park, and when you step on it, the grass above lights up with bioluminescence.
Ooh.
That would be kind of neat. That really would be.
That'd be awesome.
Because you know how some bacteria in the water, when you mix the water up, they light up at night?
Yeah.
Like that, but with grass.
Just like that scene in Fern Gully. That's exactly what I thought of when you talked about that.
Oh, man. I wanted to be Krista in the worst way when I was a small child.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, that movie.
I wanted to eat that movie so that it could live inside me forever and ever. And then when I died, I would go to, instead of going to the real Earth or the real Narnia, I would go to the real Fern Gully, which looks a lot like the Navi planet in Avatar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, please. Avatar was totally Fern Gully 3D.
I know, man. It's like people are just like, oh, it's just like Dances with Wolves with guns and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of like, no. It is Fern Gully meets Stormtroopers.
It's Fern Gully.
I know. I go in there and it's like, come on, they even live in a tree. They even live in a tree.
It's basically Fern Gully, but he gets bigger, not smaller.
Yeah. And turns blue.
I thoroughly enjoyed Avatar because I expected Fern Gully. I wanted Fern Gully, and gosh darn it, that movie fucking delivered.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the movie because it was pretty. It was a pretty movie. And I saw it in IMAX 3D, I'm like, oh.
Oh, lucky. I had to go to regular 3D, and I had to put the 3D glasses over my thick-rimmed glasses, and I made it work, but it was still kind of uncomfortable for a bit.
Yeah, we're getting off topic.
Fern Gully is never off topic.
There was a topic?
Hey, what in Fern Gully? No, I'm kidding.
Dude, we should use science to build Fern Gully.
Yes. Oh man, now we're just getting back into the magic conversation here.
Use horticulture to graft together that kind of a tree. Use all kinds of genetics and stuff to breed giant jungle animals.
And giant bats that talk like Robin Williams.
Yes. Well, we already have Robin Williams. We can just put him in a bat costume. That part's fine.
Bionic bat suit, like Iron Man, except it's batty.
Yes.
Yeah, and should we do genetic engineering or bionic implants for the fairy wings? I'm thinking bionic implants because of the sheer amount of energy that it would take for the muscle power to work those things with.
Yeah. I think it would be faster to be able to do bionic implants too. I mean, having to grow wings, because you and I could not grow wings suddenly, right? Like that would have to be a new generation of people. But you and I could totally get wing
Not necessarily.
Getting my hopes up.
If you grew the wings separately and then grafted them on, but they were engineered to not reject your tissue.
Okay. All right. I'll grant you that. We could graft on wings. But you're right. We would need an entire new musculature underneath. We'd look a little funky.
Or we could compromise and have biological wings with a cybernetic interface connecting your nerves to that nerve.
Yeah, we'd have to do something about, the muscles. Chimpanzee muscles are way more powerful than ours.
Yeah, true. Okay, so now we're grafting. I don't know. First of all, I don't know how we're growing these wings here, but now we're also grafting chimpanzees into this. We are going to be the craziest, like, mutant. Forget the Borg, right? We are going to be the new crazy cybernetic people here.
I don't give a fuck. I get to be a fairy, a real fairy that flies.
I am Dr. Moreau in this. But something that I always find curious. I wonder, could you make mid-generation morphological changes by studying how caterpillars turn into moths and butterflies?
Hmm.
Because they make a dramatic morphological change in their lifetime.
They do. I mean, I guess I don't know much about how their original anatomy turns into the new one, you know? Like, I'm not sure if
Exactly.
they
But
grow.
I've heard that they almost completely dissolve.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm wondering if you want just like a new arm, could you just put your arm in like a cast and just have it morph? You know,
Hmm.
District 9 style.
Ooh.
You saw that movie?
I didn't see that movie, but I'm just thinking of my arm
What?
morphing, and that sounds terrifying.
Oh,
Oh, you
you have
kidding
to
me?
watch District 9.
District
Am
9
I
is
behind the times
awesome.
here?
It's real sci-fi using with like real sci-fi monsters with real sci-fi sociological points using very very good special effects as well as cinematography. It's just an all-around top-notch movie, and it's really interesting. Like they basically it's about, these aliens who get marooned on Earth, and they actually have these weapons that humans can't use because you need to have alien DNA to use them. Like they're just like activated to the owners.
In my opinion, the best science fiction movie ever. It's got some awesome biotech elements to it. Although I never wondered why they didn't just culture alien cells in a glove or something. But that's besides the point.
Because they were Nigerians who were trying to use witchcraft to make it work.
Yeah, but I'm saying the military, I mean.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, maybe that's something that they were working on.
Or maybe you need like an alien entire physiology, like a pulse and the cells.
Hmm.
Or something. Anyways, it's a good movie. How did we get on movies?
I don't know, but that's now been added to my list of things after Boss Lab, so I'll get on
That's probably a very interesting sequence of events.
that. First, biohacking. Next, sci-fi.
District 9 will give you ideas.
No, what you need to do is you also need to write down all the ideas for making Fern Gully, so it goes from biohacking to building Fern Gully to watching District 9.
Actually, I think maybe I need to watch the sci-fi first,
Yes.
then
That'll
plot the Fern Gully, then biohack. I need to flip this list here.
They'll get you in the right mood.
Nice. You're gonna see me 6 months from now sitting in Boss Lab somewhere being like, why can't I grow wings?
Yes.
Bite Size is gonna take a whole new turn down the like super villains lair, angle.
Oh, I'm very close to being a real life supervillain at any moment. Like, I'm worried as soon as I well, not walk into, but get into an actual lab, I'll just spontaneously turn to a villain. Like,
Do you know there are so many? I don't understand why all of the villains in things are like Doctor whatever. Like there was a great quote from a arguably good or bad, depending on the season TV show, right? So The Big Bang Theory had a fantastic quote at one point in time of, PhD programs should do a much better job of weeding out all of the super villains because everyone is, Doctor so and so, Doctor so and so. So I really think that the first step to becoming a supervillain is getting your PhD.
Well, Alex, bear in mind, we both know someone with multiple personalities called Dr. Power.
That is very, very true.
Speaking of Miles, should we be worried about him?
Should we be worried about him? How
Yeah,
so?
the whole multiple personalities thing.
Oh, multiple. I think the two personalities are going to at least provide us with an interesting plot line. One of them might kill the other. I have no idea of how it's going to turn out, but we will find out.
Well, hopefully I'll do an episode with him on too.
Well, would you get him or would you get the other personality? How would you know?
We might have to have like a counselor's meeting
Mm,
with both of them.
mm, very good idea.
How would you differentiate them with just an audio podcast?
That would be very hard.
Left channel, right channel. Duh.
You must be wearing stereo headphones for this
That'd be
podcast.
kind of creepy. Like one's whispering in your right ear and the other's whispering in your left ear.
It's just like one of them's talking, well, blah, blah, blah. I read in the news today, and then the other one, kill everyone, kill everyone. Okay, that is just not fair, because that's not how that works. I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, I know Miles. We're just bugging him.
Yes, yes. We shouldn't be talking about him when he isn't here to defend himself or his other personnel.
Well, you know what? He can defend himself in the comments like everyone else.
That's true. But yeah, so I'm glad we gave you some ideas.
Yeah, no, I am ready to become a supervillain with wings now.
Yes.
Great.
No, you be the superhero, then Q is the supervillain. It's the Fantastic Science Fairy versus Citizen Science.
I like that, the Fantastic Science Fairy.
But really, if you were a villain, no one would suspect the one with fairy wings.
No, right? It would be the best disguise ever. I mean, everyone expects villains to be all decked out in black and stuff, but no, I'd come in, shimmering and covered in glitter, and no one would ever suspect.
And then they see like the grafted chimpanzee tissue on your back.
I just wouldn't turn around.
It'd be hidden under her pretty, pretty dress.
Yes. My pretty, pretty dress with a giant backpack.
Well, then again, there tends to be an overall cultural mistrust of people who are into extreme body modification.
That is true.
Yeah, but you're a goddamn fairy, so it doesn't matter. I cultural norms sort of go out the window when you're talking about being a giant fairy.
That's true. I think if people had already gotten over that fact, I wouldn't really have to be worried about anything else. Like, once you've passed off, yeah, dude, I'm a fairy, nobody's going to question anything else you do.
Awesome.
I am a goddamn fairy. Your argument is invalid.
So, if you do a video with fairy wings and people get weirded out, you just have to redirect them to the podcast.
I will. I'll send them back here and be like, you know what? We've already worked out all of the implications of this. You guys are just behind the times. Fairy wings,
all the
perfectly acceptable.
technological, scientific, and cultural implications of giant fairy wings.
Who knew we would tackle such world-changing topics tonight?
I sure didn't. And we'll write it up in a paper and give it a really awesome Latin title.
Nice.
Call back.
Oh, wonderful.
Nice.
And I will get on the internet and talk about it.
Wait, no, I'm making you some fairy wings too here. Come on.
I will read it.
All right.
I will read the paper to people. And I will walk around with an iPod showing people the video. Hey guys, check this out.
Nice.
Okay, well I think that about wraps it up unless you had anything else you wanted to talk about, Alex.
You know, I do not think there's anything more that could be added to this conversation right now.
I mean, it's pretty perfect the way it is.
It is a brilliant, shining pile of fairy wing glitter.
Awesome.
This train wreck is soaring like the Hindenburg.